My friends. So another powerful story. This one is about chapter 46, verse 23. Now, this is very, very difficult um, narrative because a lot of people don't focus on these names. Because this is the part where where the Torah lists all the names who went down to Egypt, all the names of the people. Most of us, when this part of the past of the Torah is read, we might skip our eyes, settle down to jump ahead or previous. It seems almost like these names of these minor characters. And so, first of all, the rabbis tremendously have find tremendous meaning in all the names, like we said, and the Rashi on last week's portion. That said in verse 21, the sons of Benjamin were Bela, Bechar, Ashbel, Ger, and Naaman. It lists the 10 sons, and that's what caused Joseph to break down when he saw that Benjamin said all the names of his sons were a reminder of Joseph. That's what he had. That's how he named all of his children. But the verse that caught my eye this morning that I wanted to discuss with you was verse 23 when it says, Uvenei Dan Chushim. The sons of Dan were Chushim. Now, Chushim is singular. So why is his name? Why does it say the sons of Dan? And also, why is he the only son? It says the sons of Dan, and there's only one. Furthermore, it's unusual to have only one son in the Torah. It's unusual to have only one son in the Torah. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I want to look something up to make sure I don't say anything inaccurate. Okay, yeah. So there's a story about Chushim, which hold on one second. Okay. So why is this Chushim? Why is he called the sons of Dan when he's only one son? So before we go into, I want to tell you, before I get to the story that I was going to tell you, I want to point out that the Baal HaTurim on here is also noteworthy. The Baal HaTurim says, Chushim bet b'masoret mitrei lishnei. It says that this word Chushim has two different meanings in the Torah. That one meaning is it was the name of the son of Dan, and another meaning is we shall prepare for battle swiftly. V'anachnu nichaletz Chushim. So the sages teach that the descendants of Dan were like clusters of reeds. At the base, there's one stem, but as it extends, it splits into many reeds. Similarly, from his one son, Chushim, Dan had many descendants. That's Baba Basra. And the same meaning can be attributed to we shall prepare for battle like Chushim. Soldiers are one to cling together so that the enemies will not separate them from one another. So Chushim was the son of Dan. Why is he mentioned? So the Gemara in Sota tells a story that when it came time, in Gemara and Sota, Yud Gimel Amud Aleph tells us when it came time for Yosef for Yaakov to be buried in Marat HaMachpelah, they're about to bury him in the tomb of the patriarchs, and Yosef and Esav came along with a fake document that said, "No, I'm supposed to be the one to be buried here." Well, when he said that, the brothers, they couldn't just bury their father; they had to enter into like a whole discussion. And they were starting to discuss it and this and that. So they said, no, we have the document of the sale of your birthright to Jacob, that he bought it to our father. So where's the document? Oh, the document's in Egypt. So he said, well, I refuse to let you bury him here unless you produce that document. So they said, okay, we're going to send Naphtali. He's going to run back to Egypt. Now, Naphtali was very fast, but it took some time. So he ran back to Egypt. But in the meantime, while he's running back to Egypt, Chushim was deaf. Chushim was deaf. And so Chushim didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what was going on. So we saw there was a delay. And he turns to one of the brothers and he says, what's going on here? And when he said this, what's going on? The brothers explained to him how they got to this point. Esav showed up. They didn't have the documents. They have to send somebody back. So they're waiting. And all of a sudden, Chushim heard this and he sees his grandfather, Jacob, lying there, exposed, waiting to be buried. He couldn't take it anymore. He says, what you're doing is horrific. And he took out his sword and he chopped off Esav's head right away. And Esav's head rolled into the grave. And so therefore you have 4 couples buried in Ma'arat Machpelah plus the head of Esav. So there is a vort here by Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz asks the following. He says, why did nobody else get so upset? Why was Chush the only one to express this outrage? What was different about Chush that he's the one who couldn't tolerate what was going on? So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz said, the distinction is that Chush was deaf. So the point is, everybody else had become acclimated to the situation. That it started slowly. Esav comes in, he pulls out his documents, says, I have this. They argue. Next thing you know, there's a delay, and a disrespectful delay, but it took them a while to get to that. Chushim had no idea what was going on, and he heard it all at once. He heard the ridiculousness of the accusation, the ridiculousness of what was going on. Then he couldn't take it. And he said, this is what it is, that if you become acclimated to the horrors of the world, you can become acclimated to the horrors of the world. So therefore, once that happens, you can't tolerate it. So if you become acclimated to the horrors of the world, then you tolerate what shouldn't be tolerated. And that was the mistake of Chushim. That was why Chushim couldn't handle it, because this whole time he wasn't acclimated. And when he saw it at first, he just comes in and sees it. He says, this is absolutely outrageous. And he refused to allow it. And now I have this story that I saw about Chushim that I wanted to share with you. So this is the story. This is the story that's told about Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak, Rabbi Sachar Dov of Radashitz. That Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak of Brezhin once came to, I don't know if the Brazens are on here. They often come to the Shiurim. Well, anyway, we'll have to ask them if they're on it. Their name is Brezhin. This is the town of Brezhin. So the Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak of Brezhin came to Rabbi Sachar Dov of Radashitz, and he was crying, and he says, all my children have died in childhood. Terrible. And he doesn't know what to do. So he said, come to me again. The Rebbe said, come to me again when the next time your wife is pregnant, and I'll give you a bracha. So when his wife was pregnant, Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak came in the 7th month. He comes to the Rebbe and he says to the Rebbe, who are you going to name? The Rebbe says, who are you naming this child for? And he says, I'm naming it for my father. My father's name was Yirmiyahu. So the Rebbe Sachar Dov of Radashit says, add the name Chaim before, call him Chaim Yirmiyahu, life of Yirmiyahu. So, okay. The chassid was about to leave and go home, and before he went home, he received a bracha from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "I bless you that your son should be born to survive and to survive his childhood." And then he finished this bracha with this pasuk, "Uvenei Dan Chushim," and the sons of Dan were Chushim. Nobody understood. He didn't understand. He felt this man, Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak, didn't feel the courage to ask his Rebbe, what's this strange bracha? So he took his leave and he went home. And when he came home, he told his wife, "This is what we have to do." But he didn't understand why the Rebbe gave him this bracha, B'nai Dan Chushim. And so all the Hasidim, they were trying to figure it out. Everybody was mysterious. Everybody was writing to all their local rabbis to try and understand what's the meaning of this bracha B'nai Dan Chushim. So finally, the Hasidim all came up with the following explanation: that B'nai Dan Chushim, it should have been the sons of Dan. It should have been called Chush in the singular. Why did it say it in the plural? Because this is one of the only examples in the Torah of an only child. And the only child, however, from Dan came forth many, many, many children, many, many descendants. So that was the message that was being told by the Rebbe. He says, this will be your only child, but from this only child, you'll have many, many descendants. That's the idea behind the pasuk of B'nai Dan Chushim. So that was the bracha. I like that story. That sometimes this man was in such a place of sadness and concern, but then he received this strange blessing. But the blessing was that from a little spark, you could have a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous opportunity. So that's the second story. Now I want to share with you about the Dudai Ruhim. But first, let me pause in case anybody has a question.